Hey, welcome back to Grit Gym. This is Thursday, so we're doing the Eric and Adam show. This is Eric Schwager, Adam Reese. Please, before we get going, please clap for us. No, slap the share button and send this out to everybody you know. The more people that you send this out to, then they can get on the live with us, and we can talk with them about it too. So please click the share button, send this out to everybody you know, and we'll get into it. But today we're talking about why to go for strength over exhaustion. So why, if you're focusing on strength, if strength training is the deal, how do we know that we're focusing on strength? How do we incorporate that into our workouts? And then what is the difference between just going for strength and just going for exhaustion? Because I think like in the fitness industry, there's a real lack of clarity around what people are using as training methods. They're just like, well, we'll just make them sweat a lot. We'll just get them out of breath a lot. Oh, we'll just have them do this and they'll lose a bunch of weight. And to a certain extent, the fitness industry is moving in a really good way. But there's this huge lack of clarity because, I mean, in your opinion, do you need strength?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Do you need some kind of cardiac effect?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need mobility and stability?
Yep.
Do you need the cardiac effect? Do you need multiple types of cardios? Do you need to be able to go for a long period of time at the same heart rate?
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah.
And do you also, if you are focusing on bringing your heart rate up and then bringing it back down, that's really hard on our body, but is it a good stress or a bad stress?
It's good.
Yeah. And if you're really, really strong without any speed and without any power, can that be problematic? Or is it better to have a full spectrum of all of them?
Yeah, you want to have it all, but you can't train for it all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to ride two horses with one ass. So anyway, we're going to go into that. What else was I going to say? I don't remember, but do you want to tell them about Ellie? This is one of the things we want to talk about is max outs. Like how often do you do a max out? Because we're going to talk a lot about heavy lifting, a lot about strength, and we want to make it very clear that it's not just like you're coming in and doing a max out lift every single time that you work out or trying to lift weight that you haven't earned the right to move yet. So go for it.
Yeah. So my girlfriend Ellie yesterday did a 200-pound squat for 1 rep, which has been a big goal of hers for a long time. But a set of 1 like that isn't something that itself is really producing the strength. It's more of a test to kind of see where you're at. I think the biggest thing that something like that does is build your confidence under a really heavy weight for future attempts.
Because she stood up with it. I mean, she probably still had 20 pounds left.
Yeah, I mean, she had at least 10, if not, I mean, who knows, but it looked easy. But that was, I mean, she hadn't done a 1 rep. I think last August, if I remember, it was the last time where she did a set of 1 on squat at 185. So it was,
And then, go ahead.
No.
Something to think about there. When he said that a max out set like that, so she hasn't maxed out in 6 months then?
About 6.
And she hasn't tried to max out, tried to lift as much as she could in 6 months, first of all. And then also he said that the max out lift wasn't about producing a gain. It wasn't about producing strength. It was just about confidence. So it's just a test.
Right.
Can you tell them a little bit about what you meant there? Because like that's a genius thing. That's a genius thing to understand. It's a big deal to understand the strength world.
Yeah. So a set of 1 isn't really. I mean, if you're doing a true set of 1, you can only do it for 1, and then you're kind of done for a long time. So it's not. It doesn't in itself. It doesn't create enough stress on the body to produce really much of a strength adaptation. It's not enough volume. Volume being your sets times reps times weight. It was 200 pounds, whereas if she's doing a regular, maybe she's doing 3 sets of 5 that day, and you do, that's 15 reps times, it might be closer, the mean of that might be closer to like 160 pounds, but that's a lot, that total tonnage is a lot more than 200. So a set of 1, isn't, when we're talking about training for strength, we're not just meaning like actually do the most weight you can do on the bar for, 1 rep, but
there's a time and a place to do that.
Right.
And that's when you do something like you're in a competition or you're testing out to see where you are, or like what she did there, and you get some other benefits out of that. But that's not a training thing. It's not like that's like in her training protocol to get stronger. She's not getting a huge training effect off of doing that.
Right. Yeah. In her program, it wasn't part of her program. She kind of deloaded for a week and then just wanted to see where his squat was at, because sometimes you want that indicator of how the last 6 months of training affected you, but that's what it is. It's an indicator, it's a test. Make sure that your training's going in the right direction, but it itself isn't meant to be training. It shouldn't,
Yeah, you probably do end up getting something out of it, but it's probably more along the lines of like the confidence of getting underneath that bar. She probably used up a lot of nervous energy just like the 5 minutes before the lift. And when she stood up, it was just like, she was obviously pretty strong. But what'd you get in August?
185.
185, so 15 pounds. Yeah. That's pretty good. Did it look like that in August?
No, it looked a lot harder. So
did it? Yeah.
So
she's
I'd say she's gained, it might be closer to 25 or 30 pounds. But
yeah. Has she had any weight fluctuation in that time? Or she pretty much stayed the same?
Pretty much the same. Yeah.
Because that is kind of like one of the phenomenons around strength training is like, even if you don't gain 1 ounce of muscle and you gain 15 pounds of fat, for some reason your numbers go up. It's this really weird thing. I don't totally understand it, but but it's a weird thing. But anyway, the talk today is, so we wanted to really, I don't know if reiterate's the right word, but emphasize that that max outs are something that you do that are few and far between. Like the most of you probably do it like every 3 months maybe. For a new person, maybe once a year for, if you're a more advanced lifter, unless you're on drugs, and then you can do a lot of crazy things. But the main thing that we want to talk about today is the fatigue, exhaustion, and what happens to the strength game when we try to use these extremely often. So strength over exhaustion is the topic of the topic of the day. So when we get into exhaustion, so there's three. If you go back to the Move Strong matrix, we've got speed, power, strength, and we've got aerobic, glycolytic, and alactic training. So this column is cardio, and this column is strength training. And we want to be very clear about when we're focusing on what, because in the fitness industry right now, they're like, well, you can get your cardio and your strength training at once, and no, you can't. You're going to end up sacrificing both. And the reason for that is because of exhaustion and fatigue. Do you want to go into a little bit about the difference between like muscle mass, the reason that how you would use fatigue to gain muscle?
Yeah, so to gain muscle with fatigue, so when you're talking about fatiguing a muscle in terms of muscle hypertrophy, which is a fancy term for saying the increase of the size of the muscle fiber, the muscle cell, you are talking about fatiguing the muscle in a really acute or short period of time, not fatiguing your aerobic system, but fatiguing the muscle, as in getting that kind of burning sensation, taking them to close to failure.
The burning sensation is a perfect example. You do a bench press, let's say, because you're trying to make your arms and your chest bigger,
right.
and so like you feel that burn. That burn. You're not going to go for a whole minute. You're not even going to go for 30 seconds. Right. You're just burning it out for a short period of time under load, and then that ends up increasing the muscle, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because so you create that training effect. Versus when we go for fat loss, which looks more like what?
So fat loss could be anything from a steady state cardio, so just picking one modality and doing it without rest at a really low intensity for a long period of time, or it can be something like interval training, which is super popular now because it can be done in a short period of time.
And it works.
And it works, it works really well for fat loss, but I think too many people believe that it's working, and I'm not going to say it doesn't work for strength, but
it has
anything will work for strength when you first start, right?
If you like literally, if it's somebody that hasn't gotten off the couch in 6 years, we could go outside and play frisbee, and they're going to make progress.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't take
playing frisbee is going to increase their bench press if they haven't
literally
trained. Just
doing anything.
Moving.
So what we're saying there, the ceiling on that interval type training, where we're adding squats and push-ups and planks and all these different kind of strength-esque exercises into a circuit where your heart rate goes up and then comes back down and goes up and comes back down and goes up and comes back down. It's a good thing, but you're not actually, you might get a little bit stronger off of it, but it has a very low ceiling on the strength portion. It's great for burning calories, but it doesn't get you stronger. Not significant or stronger.
for very long.
Not the kind of strength that we want. And we want to have massive strength, indestructible strength. Lift cars over your head with your pinky. But those are the differences. Like fatigue gets thrown around, and fatigue is important. Like for certain things, we need a certain amount of fatigue if we want to create a training effect, even in the strength world. But we have to use it for its appropriate means. We have to be very, very clear on what it means. So what happens when you get underneath the bar? Let's say you were going to go underneath the bar. You're going to do a certain exercise, and you're exhausted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are some of the things that you guys can kind of imagine? But
sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, you're not going to be able to lift the same amount of weight you would be if you were recovered and ready to get under that bar. I mean, not only can you not lift as much weight, but you're not going to be able to focus as well on what you're doing because your heart rate's just skyrocketed. Yeah, in general, that'd be kind of a con of something like trying to go for strength, trying to lift really heavy in a high intensity interval setting.
Yeah.
Is that one, you won't be able to lift as much, but two, you're going to sacrifice form, injury risk is going to go up, etc.
Yeah. So what's what are you deadlifting right now? What's an easy number? I don't know. Anyway, I walked in here and he's doing an RDL with 315 on the bar the other day. So he's a big, strong guy, right? And that probably even sounds like, is that a low number?
Yeah,
that's a low number, right? So if you were, you're real strong, and if you were doing squats, you'd be doing well above that number, right?
Sure.
Now, if you were going to go do a circuit where you did medicine balls, and then let's say you had 4 different exercises, and one of them happens to be a goblet squat. Mm-hmm. What kind of weight are you going to use? You going to use 315?
No.
What are you going to use?
No, probably closer to 65 maybe.
Yeah.
65
like
pounds.
65
Because I'm not
pounds.
I'm not trying to kid myself that I'm doing it to get stronger.
Yeah.
And if I really if I took the heaviest dumbbell, I just burn myself out, and then my next strength training session is going to be super jeopardized.
You sacrificed both because you went for the one. Yeah. You tried to do them both at the same time, and you ended up screwing up. And then so we've got technical failure that leads to an injury. What else do we have in the con section of trying to do both at the same time?
Cons. Let's see. You're more likely to get injured. Or no,
Technical failure. We sacrifice strength. We get injured.
Easier to screw up your movement patterns, so to pollute your motor.
Which is just begging for an injury. Like at some point, that's just it's going to happen. It's just when it happens.
Yeah. And it's not going to be able to produce strength adaptations for as long. Those are the big ones that I thought of. But
yeah, no, I think that's it. Like technical failure leads to injury. You sacrifice strength, which also leads to injury. You sacrifice the movement pattern, which also leads to injury. You just are begging to get injured. So it's something that we have to think about what we're dealing with. We're dealing with your nervous system. We're dealing with tissues. Really, you can just call a nervous system a type of tissue. But we have to take care of those tissues that we do have. And once you get an injury, you're never gonna. I don't really like to use the word potential because it gets really thrown around. It gets changed into other things. But before an injury, we might have had X amount of potential. After an injury, you might still get better than where you were, but you're not going to have near the potential that you did once have. Do you want to explain the difference between anaerobic and aerobic a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So anaerobic being in the absence of oxygen, and aerobic meaning using oxygen. So our body has 3 basic energy systems. The body uses what's called adenosine triphosphate for energy. We won't get too much more into that, but so there's basically 3 main energy systems. There's the phosphocreatine system, which is your most fast producing system. It uses the phosphate from a creatine molecule, and I'm trying to do this without getting too, but it uses it.
Basically, it just supplements your ATP to make more energy in a short amount of time.
Yep. So in an activity that's like 0 to 10 seconds, you're going to really be using your phosphocreatine system. And then you have your anaerobic glycolytic system, which is going to break down the glycogen stored in your muscle fibers.
Glycogen, sugar that's in your body.
Yeah, it's essentially glucose, and it'll also use the free glucose in your blood to generate ATP. That one lasts anywhere from when you're getting closer to 30 seconds, maybe even possibly up to 60 seconds in some people. And both those don't take oxygen. And then you have your oxidative system, which uses primarily carbohydrates and fats. It can also use proteins if it needs to. And this system is slow active, but it creates massive amounts of energy. It's what you're generally using throughout the day, but also in a steady state, long duration type activity.
And this is what that one on the end there, that's what humans are just extremely good at. We are extremely good at that. So lay down on your couch right now, don't move for a month, and you will be able to get up and still be able to perform in that category the way that you can at this moment in time. We are extremely good at keeping that. We are extremely good at staying at that pace. Where we suck is in that first 30 seconds to a minute. So, and where we suck even more is in that first 10 seconds. We don't really have a lot of strength. We don't really have a lot of power. We don't really have a lot of speed comparatively to other animals on Earth. So if we want to if we're already good at this one over here, we can probably push that one a little bit more. But if we go ahead and we get better in these two, it will make this one better. If you get stronger, it makes this one better. It's a weird, crazy thing that happens. Yeah. And it leads to all these other health things. But if you don't have those ones up front, so if you don't have, we basically all have 7 seconds of free energy, and then the next 10 seconds really blow. And then the next 30 seconds start to burn more and more and more and more as you go along. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about building muscle and under load, and when you're not under load, hitting that and then coming back, and then hitting that and then coming back, and then hitting that and then coming back. But the 80 maybe we should do a show on that, like how the creatine supplement actually supplements the ATP into ADP to produce energy. If you guys would be interested in that show and how energy systems work, let us know down below, and we'll get real techie in that one. But if you're focusing on strength, which you should, really, if we're focusing on any of these things, it's really hard to be in a circuit. It's really hard to do the other things without the strength up front. Because if you don't have the strength up front, then you can't actually move well throughout the rest of it. Somebody's calling me. Cut that one off. But what was I going to go into? I don't remember. What do you got left on yours, in your notes? I think we covered everything.
That's about it, yeah.
Did we get everything? Did we get everything? Oh, this isn't, we're getting to the end here. But this is one of these big things that gets really misunderstood in the fitness industry, and I was hoping that we could kind of shed some light and get some clarity on it. Because fatigue isn't about getting stronger. Fatigue is just fatigue. Getting stronger, if you're, what are some telltale signs that we're not ready to address the bar yet? For me, it's just like if they're out of breath, we're working.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, sure. If you're out of breath, your heart rate is skyrocketing. You're heaving. You have to have your mouth open to breathe. If you can't slow down, just breathe through your nose. You're probably not ready to hit a big set. Yeah.
If you're out of breath, you're working on cardio. If you're not out of breath, we might have the possibility of working on strength.
Yep.
Yeah. So strength, always strength over exhaustion. If you're going for exhaustion, come back to being under load. We did this a lot. I don't think I've ever told you this, but we did this a lot in college, where our strength coach in college was he was garbage. He was such a joke. And part of the reason I don't mind throwing him underneath the bus is because he was also a huge jackass. We would show up and he would literally say, "I don't know why you guys are here. I'm awesome," and then walk away. Those verbatim, those words came out of his mouth. He was just an amazing person. But anyway, one of the we would go through. He called it a speed workout, And at the time it seemed fine, but really we were just, we'd get like 45 seconds of rest, and then we'd go through these like jump rope drills. 45 seconds of rest, 45 seconds of rest, 45 seconds of rest. We'd do that for like a half an hour. And then we go to the weight room, and it was all like a bunch of guys screaming, yelling at each other. And every 45 seconds, you're doing a lift, you're doing a lift, you're doing a lift, you're doing a lift. And to a certain extent, there is probably a time and a place to be lifting like that. But we would do that all year round. And then we would go out and we would run stairs or do some kind of conditioning drill at the end, where it really fatigued you out at the end. So basically we were just conditioning for 3 hours.
Right, which in football is not as, I mean, when you look at a play, right, you want to live in the phosphocreatine type energy system. I mean, what does an average play last? I mean,
probably
less than 10 seconds?
I would guess an average play probably lasts less than 4.
Yeah. So
I mean, I'd probably even go less than 3.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what position you are in the field, you are never going to need to tap into an alactic.
So going back to training, how you want to perform that, right? Guy's no idea what he's.
Yeah. So if you're looking at strength, how often do we want to train each one? It kind of depends on what you're going for. So like anywhere from at least one, I would say 2 to 4 days per week of strength training is going to be ideal for almost everybody. 1 day a week of cardio, and I mean that like a long distance aerobic type state, where you're getting on a bike or you're getting on a treadmill or you're running outside, preferably. Treadmills suck. That's personal preference, and treadmills suck. But we want to do that probably at most once a week. Your body doesn't need to be going long distances for every. You don't need to run 5 miles every day. And then the other type stuff, the interval type stuff that we were talking about earlier, like probably 1 to 3 days depending on what you're going for. 1 to 3 days per week, and if you added all that up, I mean, I think most people would probably be torched if they did. If they did 4 days a week of lifting, and they did 2 days a week of that interval type stuff, and then they did 1 day a week of, I think you'd be pretty tired.
It'd be pretty intense, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be pretty intense. That'd be rough. But, so give them an idea of what you do. How do you split yours up?
Well, so, and I change this a lot throughout the year, but I mean, right now, about all I'm doing in kind of planned workouts is I'm just lifting every other day, and it switches between a knee dominant movement with upper body pulling and a hip dominant with upper body pressing. So and so I'm not going back to that same type of movement pattern for 4 days.
Yeah.
Right, for however many.
So he'll do like a squat on a Monday and like a chin up on a Monday, right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And then
deadlift and a bench press on a Wednesday, and then I'm not back to a squatting type knee dominant movement till Friday again.
Yeah.
And then as far as my cardio, I do martial arts for like 3 times a week for an hour, so I kind of use that modality to cover that. And
I think that's the way to do it. Like if you're looking at, we're so good at an aerobic capacity just as a species that I really think like just go have fun.
Right. Yeah.
Do the thing that you like to do.
Yeah,
Don't
find
waste
something
your.
that's enjoyable for your aerobic activity.
Yeah, go dancing, and I'm not talking about Zumba. I'm talking about a real dance class, like real dancing. Go do something that you really enjoy doing, and that'll suffice. The one thing you can't get away from is strength. Like everybody's got to do strength because we're so bad at it. We're so bad. But yeah, so I mean that's actually a really simple way to go about it. I like that a lot. Then how else do you change it up throughout the year?
So then sometimes I might go. I might change it up to more of a lift where I'm doing upper and lower body splits for a little bit. So then instead of working, because this way I'm working my lower body every other day, even though it's a different movement pattern. But with an upper lower, it would be like only working it twice every 7 or 8 days.
So what he means is like Monday he might come in, he might do squats and deadlifts, and then Tuesday he might come in and do an overhead press and a chin up, and then Thursday he might come in and do deadlifts and squats, the opposite way around, and then Friday he might come in and do bench press and rows.
Right.
I'm just throwing.
Yeah. Essentially like that. Yeah, that's the idea. It's right.
Yeah. So he's got Monday where he's doing his legs, then he gets Tuesday and Wednesday to rest his legs up, and then Tuesday he's got his upper body, and then he's got Wednesday and Thursday to let his upper body rest so that he can be fresh for Friday and Thursday.
Yep.
Essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. and then for other parts of the year, I'll get more into like circuit training where I'm where it's more like conditioning based, and I'm using timers, maybe just limiting myself to a minute of rest. I don't do that for very long periods of time, but there might be a month or two in there where I do that. And
I really like rest stuff, like on the minute or on the 2 minute, or like if you really want to burn out the muscle and you want to do like a 10-second on, 20-second off for as many reps as you can. I really like that kind of stuff, but you just can't do a lot of it. Like if you heard that right there and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to add that into my program, please be very careful about how you add that in and which exercises you use, because you can get yourself hurt pretty quick. So it's not something to do without somebody watching you probably that knows what they're doing. But got anything else?
that covers it from my end.
Maybe we should put your notes up on there. You got fancy notes all typed up. Mine are all just like jagged out on a piece of paper. Oh man. Well, thanks for being here, guys. We're gonna hop off the show, but please click the share button. Send this out to everybody that you know. And I think it gives you an option, like to share public. Just share public. Send this out to everybody. I think the record right now of shares is after within 24 hours, I think it's seven shares. So sometime this year we got to break that number. But please click the share button, comment below if you have any questions or if you have a statement or anything like that. And Eric will be back next Thursday, and we'll have another talk for you. But always, always, always put strength before exhaustion. Strength comes first. You have to put strength up front. And if you're trying to exhaust yourself out in a strength medium, you're asking for a problem. You will sacrifice your health, you will sacrifice the gain, you will sacrifice progress, you'll sacrifice the whole thing. Good?
Yep.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.